What's up, guys? So here's further proof that Avion Plummer serves U.S. imperialism. So this is this fucking racist scumbag, Orientalist, Islamophobic, racist scumbag named Avion Plummer. Okay, and he is a ROTC Nazi. He works at the East-West Center at UH Manoa. He is an officer candidate in the U.S. military, so he is an imperialist douchebag. So guess this. So being part of the ROTC, ROTC Nazi, he's a ROTC Nazi. He being part of so check it out. This is his about section. Highly talented student with business management experience in various industries. Working in the food and beverage industry for Chartwell's provided me excellent details of logistics and supply chain. As a cultural language ambassador, teaching students in Korea. What the fuck? He can't write in complete sentences and his grammar sucks, okay? It dealt with the Korean business market and language instruction. Being part of the ROTC, so he's a ROTC Nazi, at Shippensburg University allowed me to gain excellent training and leadership skills. So the dude was a ROTC Nazi. And ROTC Nazis serve U.S. imperialism. It also gave me experience in communications by working with incoming students as an orientation leader at Shippensburg University. It gave me customer service oriented. You mean experience? Like, the dude can't write in complete sentences and his grammar sucks. With a proven ability to provide team-spirited leadership, my main focus is building foreign relations with Asian countries. At Soonchung Yang, I was a teacher assistant at the Winter English Camp. I currently completed my TESOL at UH, and I'm now living in Honolulu while pursuing my master's degree in communications at UH Manoa. Additionally, I am also in the Hawaii National Guard, and will be commissioning next year as an officer in the U.S. Army. ROTC Nazi, building relations with Asian countries, English camp, UH Manoa, Hawaii National Guard, U.S. Army. Bro, the dude is an imperialist. Avion Plummer serves U.S. imperialism. Avion Plummer serves the ruling class, serves the monopoly capitalist class of the U.S. Again, he's an officer candidate, East-West program. And here's about the East-West program. So this is... So you know how Obama was born in Honolulu? His mom, his dad, and his stepdad were literally all funded by the CIA, and they studied and taught at the East-West Center in Honolulu. So, a company family, the untold story of Obama and the CIA. Shout out to Jeremy Kuzmarov. October 7, 2021, he made this article. In the summer of 2012, Barack Obama signed a secret order authorizing the CIA and other U.S. agencies to support rebels in Syria to oust Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, a nationalist who had allied with Iran and stood up to U.S. proxies, the Zionist entity. Costing more than $1 billion, Operation Timber Sycamore evolved into the largest covert operation since the arming of the Mujahideen fighters in Afghanistan in the 1980s. Under U.S. Special Forces under Timber Sycamore trained Islamic fundamentalists, this time in Jordan, who carried out a reign of terror. A voracious consumer of intelligence, Obama's trademark throughout his presidency was to move war into the shadows, a light footprint approach designed to expand U.S. power covertly. Again, Avion Plummer wants to expand U.S. power covertly to South Korea, and he wants to do U.S. imperialism and regime change in North Korea. That's what I believe. General Joseph Votel, head of Special Operations Command, SOCOM, characterized the Obama era as the golden age for special operations. Green Berets were deployed to 133 countries, 70% of the world, in 2014 alone. In a meeting about Afghanistan, Obama told CIA Director Leon Panetta that the CIA would get everything it wanted. The New York Times reported that in the 67 years since the CIA was founded, few presidents have had such a close bond with intelligence chiefs as Mr. Obama forged with John Brennan, an architect of the CIA's extraordinary rendition program and former CIA station chief in Saudi Arabia. Obama's worldview meshed so closely with his unsentimental intel warrior and terrorist hunter that Obama found himself finishing Brennan's sentences. An anonymous cabinet member explained that presidents tend to be more smitten with the instruments of the intelligence community, but Obama was more smitten than most. This has been an intelligence presidency in a way we haven't seen since maybe Eisenhower. Consequences could be seen in Obama's boosting funding for the NED, which promotes regime change in countries defiant of the New World Order, and its drastic expansion of the use of drones for both surveilling and targeted killings. The Obama administration further backed coups in Ukraine and Honduras, pivoted the U.S. military to Asia, ramped up U.S. arms. Again, I believe the Obama CIA was funding Avion Plummer. Ramped up U.S. arms sales to Saudi Arabia and expanded expanded military bases in Africa, helped suppress evidence about CIA torture, refused to pursue a criminal case against the CIA's money laundering bank, HSBC, eavesdropped on U.S. allies and U.S. Congressman Dennis Kucinich, who opposed his administration's illegal invasion of Libya that devastated the country, stepped up surveillance and efforts to destroy WikiLeaks and its founder, Julian Assange, and presided over the prosecution of a record number of whistleblowers under the Espionage Act of 1917. Additionally, the Obama administration protected longtime CIA assets from prosecution, like Rwandan mass murderer Paul Kagame, waged proxy war in Yemen, where some of my family is from, through the United Arab Emirates, which it sold nearly $27 million worth of arms, provided weapons to drug cartels in Mexico under the operation called Fast and the Furious, while ramping up the war on drugs through the Plan Merida, and oversaw the establishment of a clandestine arms pipeline from Libya to Syria by Ambassador Chris Stevens, as part of Operation Timber Sycamore. CIA connection. Ann Dunham, his literal mom, right? His mother, Ann Dunham, worked for the U.S. government agencies and allied NGOs. So Obama's record as president should not have been surprising given his family background. His mother, Ann Dunham, worked for U.S. government agencies and allied NGOs, the Ford Foundation, Asia Foundation, U.S. Development Alternatives, Inc., and U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, in Indonesia in the 1960s and 1970s, as well as in Ghana, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, and Thailand. Anne had been training in the Russian language, which everything combined made her a CIA recruiter's wet dream. The microfinancing projects that she worked on to help turn traditional craft industries into sustainable businesses were designed to tether third world masses to the mentality of finance capitalism, as Obama's unauthorized biographer put it. Dunham's boss at USAID in Indonesia, Dr. Donald Gordon Jr., author of this Credit for Small Farmers in Developing Countries for USAID in 1976, was identified in Julius Mader's 1968 book, Who's Who in the CIA, as a CIA agent. Another boss, Peter Geithner, Timmy Geithner, the one who went to Dartmouth, I believe he was the Dartmouth 82. Oh, now it's making sense. Another boss, Peter Geithner, was future Treasury Secretary Timmy Geithner's father. Anne obtained her bachelor's and master's degree in anthropology from the University of Hawaii, writing a thesis which argued that Indonesian villagers were dynamic and could produce greater wealth if they had access to market incentives and capital. Anne went to Indonesia in the mid-1960s. At that time, the CIA supported a military coup led by General Suharto against the left-wing regime of Sukarno. Over 2 million suspected members of the Indonesian Communist Party, PKI, were rounded up and massacred in its aftermath, and thousands more were imprisoned for decades. Much of Anne's anthropological and consulting fieldwork was carried out in East and Central Java, which provided a hotbed of support for the PKI, including among members of the Javanese Women's Association and Labor Federation. At this time, the CIA employed anthropologists and development workers as undercover agents to gather information on villagers' political affiliations, in which Anne, according to her thesis advisor, Alice Dewey, had taken an interest. After her arrival in Indonesia, Anne Dunham taught English at the American Embassy in Jakarta, which also housed one of the biggest CIA stations in Asia and had significant satellite stations in Surabaya, in eastern Java, and Medan in Sumatra. Dunham also worked for the Indonesian-American Friendship Institute in Jakarta, suspected CIA front. One of her closest colleagues, Adi Sasono, had been the leader of the Muslim students during the overthrow of Sukarno. While Anne's recruitment as a CIA agent has never been openly acknowledged, she was among one of the few U.S. government employees with the language skills and access to fulfill this role effectively. Development projects in the region were explicitly designed to pry villagers away from the PKI orbit, and Ann's work would have contributed to this. In March 1965, Ann married an Indonesian Lieutenant Colonel Lolo Soetoro, whom she met at the University of Hawaii's East-West Center, a giant, kinder, gentler version of the School of the Americas, according to one writer, and cover for a training program in which Southeast Asians were brought to Hawaii and trained to go back to create agent nets. A U.S. Information Service Director, Frank Scotton, described it. Wow. So, given the information that we have about the East-West Center and the information that we have about Avion Plummer, we can confirm that Avion Plummer, he's a glowy. He's probably a glowy. He's probably a spook. And he is definitely a U.S. imperialist and some sort of asset of the deep state. The dude's a Razi Nazi. And then from Shippensburg, all of a sudden, he goes to UH Hilo. Check it out. So, this is Avion Plummer, right? 2018 BA in Linguistics. So where are you from before UH Hilo? Born and raised in Philly, PA. I was a student at Shippensburg University before transferring to UH Hilo. So why did you choose UH Hilo? Well, I wanted to have more access to more of the Asian culture since my goal after graduating from UH Hilo is to work overseas as a professor. UH Hilo was the best fit for me to explore more of those opportunities. I wanted to be part of a diverse campus, and UH Hilo is one of the most diverse campuses in the USA. I feel now I can I like that I can study abroad, and UH Hilo has a great global exchange program. What are your plans after UH Hilo? I'm applying for grad school in Korea. After that, I want to pursue my PhD in Korea in international studies with a concentration in Korean studies. What do you like about UH Hilo? I like that you meet people who are not you. It's not just one culture. It's a good place to learn how to be open-minded. And then he writes that he was a Razi Nazi, being part of the ROTC at Shippensburg University. And then he says, my main focus is building foreign relations with Asian countries. And he said, I currently completed my TESOL at UH, and now I'm living in Honolulu while pursuing my master's in communications at UH Manoa. Additionally, I'm in the Hawaii National Guard and will be commissioning next year as an officer in the U.S. Army. This smells like U.S. imperialism to me. This guy is a glowy. This guy, Avion Plummer, is a glowy. He is a glowy. He is a Fed. He is a U.S. imperialist. So here's another, and given what we know about the East-West Center, it all makes sense, right? So here's another connection to and he wants to be the next Obama. So here's another connection to Obama. Stanley Armour Dunham. Obama's grandfather, Stanley Armour Dunham, who helped raise him, served with the 9th Air Force Division in World War II. He was pictured in a military uniform with no insignia, which suggests an intelligence unit. Another photo featured his daughter Anne with an insignia of an elite school in Lebanon on her shirt in the 1950s, where Stanley may have worked with the CIA or another U.S. government agency. In the early 1960s, Stanley Dunham was part of a group photo taken with Barack Obama Sr. on his departure from the University of Hawaii. Obama Sr. Had been part of the State Department CIA exchange financed in part by the Joseph P. Kennedy Foundation that brought future African leaders to the U.S. who were being groomed to serve U.S. interests in the Cold War. The photo would suggest that Dunham was one of the coordinators of the exchange, indicating work for the State Department or CIA. According to his official biography, Dunham worked as a furniture salesman for the Standard Grunbaum furniture company, which led to his frequent travel and family moves. Yeah, right, that's fucking bullshit. He was a fucking Fed, right? Independent researchers believe, however, that his job was a cover for his work as an intelligence agent who surveilled radical groups or military or Air Force production facilities, which was what brought him to Hawaii. Dunham's favorite bar in Honolulu, to which he brought young Barry, perhaps not coincidentally, was owned by William J. Lederer, a known CIA agent who wrote the Cold War classic, The Ugly American. This is pretty damning. Barack Obama Sr. Obama's purported Kenyan-born father, Barack Obama Sr., has met his mother in 1960 when he was 23 and she 18 in a Russian language class at UH Manoa. The leader of the opposition Kenyan African Democratic Union, KADU, condemned the exchange Obama was part of for favoring certain tribes, the majority Kikuyu and minority Luo over other tribes to support the Kenyan African National Union. The latter's leader, Tom Mboya, was a favorite of the CIA and opposed the Pan-Africanist currents on the continent. He was the one who selected Obama Sr. for the scholarship. Obama Sr. returned the favor by going back to Kenya to work for the Kenyan Finance and Transport Ministries and an oil firm in Kenya before dying in a car crash in 1982. Mboya himself was assassinated in 1969. Far-fetched as it sounds, Obama Sr. may not have been Obama's real father. Obama Sr. and Ann never lived together or had a real wedding, and Obama Sr. had no contact with his son except for a short 2-week visit to Hawaii when Obama was 10, which may have been for the purpose of securing Obama a spot in the coveted Punahou prep school. Yeah, fuck Punahou. I hate Punahou. The photo of Stanley and Obama Sr. is suspicious because what father in his right mind would be pictured smiling with the man who impregnated his teenage daughter and then abandoned her? There is evidence to suggest that Obama's real father was Frank Marshall Davis, an African-American journalist, sexual libertine poet, or political radical and alleged target of Grandpa Dunham's surveillance. Obama's friend, Keith Kakugawa, again, Japan, U.S. imperialism. Makes sense, right? Told an interviewer that Anne had an affair with Davis because she was angry that the family had to move to Hawaii away from her high school friends who were all attending the University of Washington. Interesting. Anne became pregnant, and to hide the truth, Dunham paid Obama Sr., who he knew through the University of Hawaii exchange, to marry Anne, giving him the opportunity to extend his visa to attend Harvard. Barack eventually found out the truth, writing in his memoir, Dreams from My Father, that the visits to Frank's house always left me feeling vaguely uncomfortable, as if I were witnessing something complicated, some complicated unspoken transaction between the two men, a transaction I couldn't understand. Obama paid a tribute to his actual father in a 1981 poem published in the Occidental College literary journal called Pop, which attributes to him features that resemble Davis and references Pop's poetry written before his mother died. Barack Sr. was not a poet, and although Stanley dabbled in poetry, Barry called him Gramps, and his mother committed suicide before his 18th birthday. Damn. Madeline Dunham. One other connection between Obama and the national security state lies with his grandmother, Madeline Dunham, whom Obama called Tu. Though lacking a college degree, Madeline rose to the rank of vice president of the Bank of Hawaii, which suggests she had high-level personal connections. In that job, Madeline handled escrow accounts used to pay American Cold War clients in Indonesia, Taiwan, the Philippines, South Korea, and elsewhere, including through CIA proprietaries. The Bank of Hawaii further had dealings with the Nguyen Hand Bank of Australia, through which the CIA funded the constitutional coup d'etat against Australian Labor Prime Minister Gough Whitlam in 1975. Covering up the truth. Obama and his handlers effectively covered up the truth about Obama's family history. They marketed Obama as a multiracial candidate whose sensitivity to divergent cultures around the world would help restore America's international reputation following the Bush years. In his 2022 memoir, A Promised Land, Obama presents his mother as a 1960s rebel and a beatnik who took part in civil rights protests, opposed the Vietnam War, married outside her race twice, and decided to devote her career to setting up micro-lendings project for poor women in Indonesia and later Pakistan, whose language and culture she absorbed. Obama claimed that his mother did not know about the countless atrocities that were committed by the Suharto government, which is implausible given her background and the fact they were reported on by mainstream newspapers at the time favorably. Of further significance, Obama underplayed his stepfather Lolo's army rank in his 2006 book, The Audacity of Hope. Regarding his own story, Obama has promoted falsehoods at every step. In A Promised Land, he neglects to mention that after graduating Columbia University in 1983, he worked for about a year for a business international corporation, BIC, in a Manhattan-based consulting house to multinational corporations, where his job was to edit newsletters on business conditions in countries around the world. Headed by a close friend of former Vice President Hubert Humphrey, Orville Freeman Jr., the former governor of Minnesota who was involved with Humphrey in the purge of suspected communists in the Farmer Labor Party, BIC had functioned as a CIA front. Its subspecialty was was in recruiting left-wing organizers to use as assets and in infiltrating foreign relations with the goal of promoting disruptions in targeted economies. An activist with the Students for Democratic Society, SDS, described BIC as the guys who wrote the Alliance for Progress, the Marshall Plan for Latin America. They're the left wing of the ruling class. Besides underpaying his employment with BIC, Obama in his writings omits the fact that his work as a community organizer was for the Gamaliel Foundation, a satellite of his mother's old employer, the Ford Foundation, whose underlying aim was to prevent class solidarity and the revival of MLK Jr.'s interracial Poor People's Movement. Obama further leaves out that as an Illinois state senator, he partook in pay-to-play schemes granting favors to political donors like slumlord Tony Rezko, who helped him purchase his Hyde Park mansion. My great-great-grandpa lived in Hyde Park for below market value. And the CEO of a technology firm, Robert Blackwell Jr., whom Obama paid $112,000 in legal fees to work for work that appears to be impossible for him to have done. Obama's timeline for his life story, meanwhile, is often wrong. In A Promised Land, for example, he claims to have spent 3 years in New York after transferring from Occidental College to Columbia after his sophomore year. However, it is believed that Obama spent the 1981 to 1982 school year in Pakistan and only studied at Columbia for 1 year. Obama, defender of the U.S. empire. Obama's abysmal foreign record was telegraphed in his 3 major books, where he promotes defensive U.S. foreign policy while maligning and advancing stereotypes about the 1960s movements and critics of U.S. foreign policy. In his first memoir, Dreams from My Father, in 1995, Obama describes 1960s Black Power icon and anti-imperialist Stokely Carmichael as a madman and claims to have witnessed 2 women selling literature outside a lecture hall where he heard Carmichael speak, calling each other names like Stalinist pig and reformist bitch. Obama editorialized that the movement activists who clung to the ideals of the 1960s had become completely removed from the struggles of those they purported to serve, or just plain crazy. In his latest memoir, A Promised Land, Obama pats himself on the back for questioning his own assumptions, which he writes, inoculated me against the revolutionary formulas embraced by a lot of people on the left at the dawn of the Reagan era. Obama goes on to recount arguments he allegedly had with friends in college who insisted that the American hegemon was the root of oppression worldwide. Obama writes that he knew better, having lived overseas, and would extol the idea of America, the promise of America. According to Obama, the argument would usually end up with some smug bastard dropping a newspaper in front of me, its headline trumpeting the U.S. invasion of Grenada. These arguments could not actually have taken place in the way Obama suggests, because Obama graduated from Columbia University in May 1983. The U.S. invaded Grenada in October 1983. At the time of the invasion, Obama was actually working for the CIA front corporation, BIC, whose employees were unlikely to have insisted that the American hegemon was the root of worldwide oppression, or to have condemned the U.S. invasion of Grenada, which had been based on false pretenses. Pretext. Obama's ties to the Crowns and Pritzkers. One other thing omitted by Obama is his close connection to the Crown and Pritzker families. The Crown family, whose net worth stands at over $10 billion, has long owned a significant stake in General Dynamics, manufacturer of Trident missiles, Stryker troop carriers, bunker busters, LAV-25 amphibious armored vehicles, Abrams tanks, sniper rifles, and nuclear-powered submarines and naval destroyers. During Obama's presidency, General Dynamics bought out 11 firms specializing in satellites, geospatial intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and amassed contracts from 16 U.S. intelligence agencies after investing $10 million in annual lobbying. The company further embraced every surveillance intelligence style of warfare, developing small target and identification systems and equipment that could intercept insurgents' cell phone and laptop communications, and computer software used for cyber and psychological warfare. The Crown family gave at least $86,636 to Obama campaigns between 1990 and 2012, and raised an additional $3,205,233 between 2007 and 2012, while paying $135,000 for Obama's inauguration in 2009. Susan Crown, Lester's daughter, sat on the board of Northern Trust, which gave Obama a sweetheart loan for purchase of a $1.65 million Georgian Revival mansion in Chicago's Hyde Park, complete with a 1,000-bottle wine cellar. James Crown, who was the target of a congressional and criminal probe as chairman of the J.P. Morgan Chase & Company's Risk Committee, was Obama's fundraising chair in his 2004 campaign for Senate. The Crown's investment in Obama paid off. General Dynamics revenue shot up to over $30 million in 2016, a threefold increase from 2000. The Crown's net worth doubled in the Obama years, causing the family to rise in the Forbes ranking to the 27th richest family in the United States. Pritzker had helped finance Obama from the beginning years of his political career, having allegedly met him in the 1990s when her kids were playing on a basketball team coached by Michelle Obama's brother, Craig, so Obama's brother-in-law. During Obama's 2008 White House run, Pritzker served as the national chairwoman of his campaign finance team, which shattered fundraising levels, and in the 2012 re-election effort, she was his top bundler. The Pritzker family, which had made its fortune through the ownership of Hyatt hotels, had long ties to the CIA. They were leading depositors in the Bahamas-based Castle Bank, a CIA outfit founded by one of the CIA's mob liaisons, Paul Helliwell, which specialized in offshoring money. The Pritzkers were also war profiteers. In 1953, family patriarchs J. and Robert Pritzker founded the Marmon Group, an industrial holding company which includes the subsidiary Marmon Aerospace and Defense, which manufactures wires and cables for aerospace, military vehicles, combat systems, radar installations, and naval shipboards. The Pritzkers, like the Crowns, thus personally profited from Obama's mammoth military budgets, which outstripped those of President Bush by an average $18.7 billion per year. Obama's naval buildup on the South China Sea and is overseeing more military sales of military weaponry than any other president. $60 billion more than President Bush. Conclusion: as the first black president, Obama is often placed on a pedestal as a moral beacon compared to such historical figures such as Martin Luther King, or Martin Luther Clown, Martin Luther Cuck, the Zio Cuck, and Nelson Mandela. These comparisons are off base, as Obama is an opportunistic and often deceitful politician who has shown a lack of moral integrity throughout his career. Obama's deep ties to and support of CIA and offshoot agencies like the NED fueled great foreign policy disasters which ravaged numerous countries. After he left the presidency, Obama worked through his consigliere, John Brennan, to help conjure up the Great Russiagate scandal, which revived Cold-era demonologies, poisoned U.S.-Russia relations, and greatly increased the threat of nuclear war. Media outlets, including those on the left, continue to perpetrate many myths about Obama and to assume a defensive posture in the face of right-wing attacks. While these attacks may be nefarious, they should not preclude sober and critical analysis about America's 44th president and the dark forces behind his power to rise and reign. I see Avion Plummer. I see Avion Plummer as the second Barack Obama, right? Sketchy ties to the East-West Center, U.S. Army officer candidate, probably funded by the CIA, supposedly was a ROTC Nazi at Shippensburg University and the Hawaii National Guard, wants to be in the U.S. military. I see hella parallels, and he came to Hawaii because he wanted to have access to Asian culture for nefarious purposes of U.S. imperialism, right? Nefarious purposes of U.S. imperialism, right? So he was a fucking scrub defensive tackle at fucking Germantown in Philly. Then he goes to Shippensburg University where he is a ROTC Nazi. Then somehow magically he ends up at Hilo, at Hilo. Like, you would not expect someone from Philly to go somewhere in Hawaii. You just wouldn't. Now, you might expect them to go to New York or Boston, but it's less likely someone from Philly would end up in a little rinky-dink, no offense to Hilo, rinky-dink town like Hilo, right? Again, I've been to Hilo. I have friends in Hilo, so I know what I'm talking about. And he wants to work overseas as a professor. And he wants more access to the Asian culture. Like, what the fuck? I'm Asian. Like, there's Asian culture in Philly. You got Lebanese, you got Syrians, you got Palestinians. There's hella Asians in Hilo, bruh. Or not in Hilo, and obviously in Hilo, but also in Philly. You got Syrians, Lebanese, and Palestinians there. You can go up to Allentown, learn Syrian culture. No. But Avion Plummer is a CIA puppet, I believe. Guys. And Avion Plummer is a U.S. imperialist and a spook and a Fed who wants to do U.S. imperialism in Korea. And that's why when I called out Leaf on Big Ox Bob's channel, he vociferously lashed out at me. He vociferously lashed out at me when I called out Leaf's normalization of the Zionist entity, because, again, Avion Plummer is a CIA, I believe is a CIA agent, or has some connection. I mean, Razzi Nazi, Manoa, East-West Center, U.S. Army, Korea, access to the Asian culture, foreign relations with Asia. He is no different than Barack Obama. Avion Plummer is no different than Barack Obama. He is just the next Barack Obama, and he is an asset of U.S. imperialism, and he is probably a deep state spook. He is probably an asset of the CIA, and we have to take that into account moving forward. So there you go.